Meeting of the Board of Finance. For the record, today is Tuesday, July 18th. We are meeting in the City Hall auditorium and via Zoom. And participating in person in the auditorium, I have Board of Finance member Deb Iannacido, Lorraine Pesky, Chris Bayes, and James Wright. I don't know that anybody is called in by Zoom. Okay, but this is our quorum, so we're fine. Before we begin the meeting, could we please stand and pledge the flag? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All right. Item number 1 on the agenda this evening is a public comment. I'll entertain a motion to open the meeting to the public.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bayes.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are open to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to address the Board of Finance this evening? Seeing none, we'll move into item 2. And I'll take this in the 4 different motions. 2A, I'll entertain a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes of May 22nd, 2023.
So
moved. Thank you. I heard Mr. Wright and I heard Ms. Pesky. Questions on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're good. 2B, I'll entertain a motion to accept the joint meeting minutes with City Council of May 22nd, 2023.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Wright, seconded by Mr. Bayes. Questions or comments on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item 2C, I'll entertain a motion to accept the public hearing minutes from May 22nd, 2023.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Ms. Iannacido, seconded by Mr. Wright. Questions or comments on the minutes?
That was me for the second, for the record.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bayes, for the record, motion made by Ms. Iannacido and seconded by Mr. Bayes. If there are no questions, I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 2D, I'll entertain a motion to accept the special meeting minutes from June 8th, 2023.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Do you have a second?
That was
Second.
me again for the record.
Was it? Stop throwing your voice into Mr. Wright's seat.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bayes, seconded by Ms. Pesky. Questions or comments on this motion? Minutes. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 3. On the recommendation of the Vehicle Replacement Advisory Board and the Fleet Manager, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to act on behalf of the city to award, execute, and administer the additional purchase of F-550 bucket truck from MHQ of Middletown, Connecticut in the amount of $179,408.90. The funding for this is coming from vehicle replacement account as described in the purchasing agent's letter dated July 13th, 2023. This purchase has already been approved by City Council and is pending Board of Safety approval. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bayes, seconded by Mr. Wright. Questions? Emil is here to answer.
Emil, I saw somewhere written that the upgrade to a F-550 wasn't going to cost us anything. Now it is.
Correct.
Okay. So
Yes, what happened when we first brought this purchase up to all the boards, it was a outfit for 117. The misconception was on my part, I take 100% responsibility for that. The vehicle was not included in that first presentation. But after we went back to MHQ, they said they have a 550 that they would give to us at no extra cost to the city as well. And so I couldn't turn that down as well. Okay. From a 450 to a 550.
okay. So they are giving us a 550 for the cost of a
450.
450. Okay.
That's correct.
Yep.
Any other questions while we have Emil at the podium? The new podium.
Nice podium.
It does, looks good. All right, thank you, Emil.
Thanks. Emil.
If there are no other questions, I will call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And if we could let the record reflect that Board of Finance member Christopher Anderson is also present. Thank you.
Both Chris's.
Okay, moving into item number 4, I will entertain a motion to authorize a transfer of $200,000 surplus from the Board of Education's general budget or operating budget into their capital reserve account for the Torrington High School turf field.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Pesky,
Second.
and second by Mr. Bayes. And we have here in the auditorium with us our new superintendent, Michael Wilson. Board Chair Fiona Capabianca is here, and Facilities Director John Barlow. So if there are questions.
No questions. I think
No.
we discussed this at the budget meeting, so I don't have any further questions.
All right, if there are no questions, I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 5, I will entertain a motion to accept the Board of Education's capital fund projects plan for the 23-24 budget year, fiscal year. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Ms. Pesky,
I need a second by Mr. Wright.
and second by Mr. Bayes.
Nope, by Mr. Wright.
Next one.
Thank you. I'm going to separate you two. All right, so the motion was made by Ms. Pesky and the second came from Mr. Wright. Questions or comments on the plan?
I do have questions. Is it important for us to continue to invest in certain things at Forbes? That's somewhat of, it has been discussed as the school that we may close as we don't, as the high school and the middle school project comes to fruition.
That was going to be my question. I think I think the water heaters are paramount because they're going to be in there for another few years. But if it's in the plan, and I'm sure Fiona can probably speak to this, why would we rebuild the original front entrance to that building? Or John or Fiona?
So, and I'm gonna ask for a hall pass because Chairman Capabianca has 2 broken feet.
Oh,
She can
actually,
hobble up here, I think.
we have wireless mics. We can.
So
bring her
yeah,
in.
I don't know who the spokesman is.
We have wireless mics. There. We can bring her in.
Hi, everybody.
Hi,
John.
It's great to
John.
be back. So when we looked at stuff in that plan, right? So we always look at potentially anything that could close the buildings as a number 1 priority. Hot water heaters obviously would potentially close the building. We're still operating as a school. Health and safety is a second priority. Without getting into detail in a public forum, there is a security issue that's resulted in that entrance. So that's hence the reason why it needs to get rebuilt.
So what beyond, I mean, can we close that entrance or does it have to be a fire
No,
entrance?
It has to stay as an entrance because it's an egress out of the building.
Okay,
So closing the entrance would then not allow 2 exits out of the building from that older portion of the building. Hence the reason why it needs to be.
so I guess we can't put a set of steel doors in there and not take on a project to completely rebuild the entire entryway. I mean,
Seems like I missed.
Yeah, so my only other issue in looking at that too, right, is although the building's not going to be used as a school facility, potentially in the future, pending restructuring and all that stuff, right? It is still a town building and there has to be some investment into the town building as to what you're going to use it for in the future. There's been a number of different things that I've heard that it's going to be used for. So ultimately, rebuilding it isn't really a waste of money, right? It's continuing on maintaining the investments that you've put into this building.
Or even
yeah.
if we were going to sell it to somebody else to.
But
to
I
make some money.
still have a hard time justifying $120,000 for that when I think that there's probably a lot of things in the buildings that we're going to be using for the next 20 years that could use $100,000 of work, and we can figure something out with $20,000 or $30,000 for that entrance to make sure people can enter and exit safely.
So that number was developed by Silver Petrosillo and Associates upon their architectural study and review of the buildings. That was that great big packet that everybody
Yep,
received.
yeah, I remember.
And what that number is it's combined for two different things, right? Number one was the actual entrance door, but then number two was the masonry structure around the door
Yeah, the
is
facade.
actually falling apart. There's like bricks falling off the building and stuff. So it was sort of a combination deal to get all of that fixed at the same time.
Yeah, but just us not using that entrance and then the fate of the school in the near future. I don't mind investing that money if we know what the fate is, but at this point, there's nothing set in stone on what's going to happen with that building besides that it's going to be closed for school use.
Well, and
Potentially.
And-
I mean,
Poten-
that's still
potentially,
not,
but-
yes, that still hasn't been determined yet
Right.
by the board.
right, hasn't been determined, and the only thing I would caution on is that one of the things that's the state has and federally has looked at is required preschool. So if required preschool comes into play, you're not going to have the structures to put them in. That potentially, or a redistricting again, would put preschool in maybe another building, and then that becomes back a viable school building again.
Yeah,
It's
But at that point, I'd be comfortable doing that work. But at this point, when we don't know what's going to happen with it, I think that it's a lot of money. I think it's a lot of money to do that repair when the entrance isn't even used. Even if we redo this, we're still not going to use the entrance. It's just going to be used as an egress. I mean, we're not going to line up buses on Midget Avenue to let kids
Oh,
in.
no, absolutely,
way.
absolutely.
So
not.
it's-
not,
it's one of
an
those things.
egress. It's an egress out of the building, but it still needs to be repaired due to the nature of many things that are currently happening in that building, and with our young students in there, it's important.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I just disagree respectfully. I just don't. Yeah, we have wireless mics now, so you can send one over.
Because there's bricks that are falling, there is the safety issues that we are.
Which is why we need to address it, because it is in the report with falling bricks coming from above that door, and because it is an egress door and an emergency exit, it does have to be repaired. And even if we were to turn it over for another use, we've talked about different uses depending on what happens with this mandatory pre-K, that is going to have to be fixed. And if we don't fix it, now that we have it in a documented report and someone is injured, I think the cost would be much more to us. That was our thought process when looking at this door.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I understand your point. I just don't. If we have to repurpose that school, then I think there's probably other upgrades that also need to be done, and I'd rather do them at that time. I don't see, if nobody's going to use this entrance as a functional entrance to the school, who's a brick going to fall on if nobody's going in and out of this door?
Well, it's the emergency exit, fire drills, all that kind of stuff. They do
Yeah,
use that
so-
door.
So an emergency.
Could this be
Conditions.
reworded instead of rebuilding the original front, just repairing the original front for a lesser cost? That sounds like that's
So-
what you're describing. And even though the consultants, I mean, when they did their study, things have changed since they've done that basically. So rebuilding is less what you're describing than just repairing it.
So I've looked at the entrance extensively. I've looked at the door extensively and the brickwork and stuff that needs to get done. I don't see where the potential for repairs would result in any real reduction in savings. That's basically what they referred to in their study was repair of all of the existing or rebuilding of the existing front. So we're not ripping it out, and replacing it as all brand new. It's repairing what's there and making it secure. I don't see that as an extensive amount of money to do that. On the other hand, I also would like to point out that in the facility study, what they did was they categorized stuff towards what was most important, 1 and 5. This one came in the 2 area. So it was, they kept it pretty highly rated as something that was in need of some significant repairs almost immediately.
Yeah, I still think I just have an issue with the price tag on that, but like I said, I digress.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? All right, I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
I had 3 in favor. Any opposed? 2 opposed.
Only for that one
Yeah,
item.
that one item, yeah.
I agree with the rest of the capital plan.
Okay. So the motion on the table was for the approval of the entire plan, 3 in favor, 2 opposed, motion passes. Thank you, Jen.
Jim. and-
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The quiet.
And that's the only thing like I said, I thank Fiona and the Board of Ed for this capital plan. I think it addresses a lot of the things in that report. So beyond that, I think that it's a wise use of dollars.
Okay, thank you. Moving into item 6, I will entertain a motion to consider business by department heads.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Bayes and
That was-
Mr. Anderson.
And
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Emile, you're on the hot seat. Anything to add this evening? Okay. Superintendent Wilson, anything to add this evening? Carol, anything from the city clerk's office?
We had a meeting with the Secretary of the State this afternoon, and they're pushing real hard for funding for new tabulators and to help us out. I don't think it's been approved quite yet, but it's looking good.
it's good news.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. Good. All right, moving into item 7, I'll entertain a motion, to consider business by mayor and members.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Pesky,
Second,
and second by Mr. Bayes.
got it.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm starting to my left. Anything this evening, Mr. Wright?
Just curious on the peddler, when's the next court date? Or inspection date, or however they're doing it.
Yes, so the trial continues tomorrow morning at 9:30. The city's testimony has all been placed in record. I think it's the defendant's testimony that's going in this next phase. Although in light of the recent crumbling of the facade and the falling of that crumbled facade and the sidewalk and our necessity to block the sidewalk off, we will be fighting to get additional evidence onto the record. So fingers crossed, tomorrow I'll be back.
And anybody who wants to watch it, you can view it via the CT Judicial live stream. So if anybody's interested in watching the trial, you can
Did
see
you
it.
watch it last time?
Yeah, I've been watching it every time.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Anything else?
Not for
That's
me.
it. Mr. Bayes,
Nothing.
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, just wanted to say thank you to everyone involved. Sebastian and I were able to go tour the new high school and middle school yesterday. And he kept saying, this is a once in a lifetime thing to see it under construction. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And we didn't throw anything down the elevator shaft.
Yeah.
We were tempted, but there's so much progress and they've done so much work there. It looks amazing. So again, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate being able to get out there and see it in person. And the only other thing I would mention is just to throw people under the bus, our very own city clerk has been nominated for the Town Clerk of the Year award here in Connecticut. Just a nomination, just a
It's
nomination.
nice to be
Hey, they-
nominated.
He has a 1 in 5 chance.
They count.
And I
they count
found
Grammy
that,
nominations like that. so-
yeah, I did find out that I'm not allowed to solicit other votes or submit 17 votes. So as I understand it, all the town clerks put forth their own nominations and then they all vote amongst themselves on who they choose. So maybe we could start emailing other cities? We can't? Oh, come on.
Well,
There's no lobbying either?
There's
All
no
right.
shame in his game.
These are questions worth asking. But again, congrats on the nomination, Mom. And
I
here's
agree.
my call for you.
Thank you for sharing. That's great news. I know a few clerks I could call.
no soliciting.
Thank you. Ms.
Let's try
Pesky.
it.
I too went on the tour yesterday and was very impressed. We may have to come up with a new name for the Little Theater.
It's
It looks
not very
better.
little anymore.
It's not gonna be so little anymore. The other question is, where are we on the audit?
We have a draft. And we have one item that we're working through right now, that we need to get an opinion from our actuaries to find out how we address the entry. We're working, it's the Pepler case.
The what? I'm sorry.
Or it's a-
Yeah, the litigation, the Pepler claim, the Chris Pepler's claim,
Okay,
excuse me, the estate of Christopher Pepler's claim.
yes.
There's a settlement that was approved by the Board of Trustees. However,
Mhm.
how that gets reported in the audit is a little bit something we're trying to work our way through.
Okay. Is this costing us any money with the state? Like, do you get fined for not having? submitted?
No, and I've been in touch with Bill Plummer and we've been discussing where we're at. I've been providing them updates weekly. And we should have an audit before the commission meets. And we should be fine.
And that is a question that I also posed to CLA. We are not the only municipality that is still working on the 2022 audit. There are a number of municipalities, and it is a litany of reasons between short staff in the auditing firms, not specifically CLA, but across the board. Auditing firms are struggling with their staffing levels. It's staffing levels on the municipal side. So CLA did assure us that we are not, the only municipality in this situation. She also reassured us that that OPM is well aware of some of the logistical reasons that this has been delayed. But the draft, as Robin has said, is being reviewed by their secondary review team. And with any luck, we'll have that to us in the next 10 days to 2 weeks.
And when do they come to start
Report out to
this
us.
year's?
A great question. We have already started.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. We started last week, this week.
Okay.
They've been, yeah.
Say after July 1st, they start right away, right?
Well, because we were behind schedule on finalizing the audit, we would have had our preliminary audit early June. So that's what we're doing right now.
Right.
And then once we finalize the preliminary, they'll send us all the requests for the regular audit, and then they'll come and do their field work in October.
Thank you.
Miss Ianacito, anything this evening?
I'm good.
All right. There is no further business before this board, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you, Mr. Anderson and Mr. Bayes. All in favor?
aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, we're good. And I encourage you to grab a chance to meet our new superintendent.